Okay, tell us your name and tell us a little bit about your project.
Well, I am Sir Arthur Eddington, and my project was on proving Einstein's theory of relativity true. My project team and I could perform these experiments and gain our data with the help of a few government grants, one of which was for €1,000 for transportation, and the other one was for about €100, which helped with the equipment. The equipment that we were using consisted of some very large lenses and some rather large tubing, which would help us set off the rotation of the Earth. I could later This also helped me later come out with numerous articles which announced my findings to the world. The project that we worked on was the solar eclipse project.
Awesome. What were you guys trying to do or find?
We were trying to find supporting evidence that gave the first realistic data that Einstein's theory of general relativity was true. We did have two groups of scientists. One group which would travel to an island off of Africa called Principe, and the second group went to Sorta, Brazil, which is in northern Brazil, and these groups would go and set up um, like viewing stations to watch the solar eclipse that was happening on March 29th, 1919. Um, During the eclipse, we took pictures of the stars with light rays that passed near the sun. These rays would appear to have been slightly shifted because of their light had been affected by the gravitational field. This could only be seen during the solar eclipse because the sun's brightness would obscure the affected stars otherwise.
Awesome. Where did this project occur?
Like I said earlier, the experiment took place in two different locations, one in Principe and the other in Sorta, Brazil. My project team and I decided to split up into two different locations to take precautions if there had been bad weather in one location or the other. Basically, it was like a backup plan because solar eclipses only occur once every 18 months. And we really didn't want to have to wait a solid year and a half to do our project again. So we also had some issues. My project team and I were on the island of Principe, and we were really nervous about it because over 2 weeks prior to the eclipse, it had been extremely stormy, lots of rain, all kinds of clouds. And the day that the eclipse occurred, it had started, and about 400 seconds after the eclipse had began, the clouds cleared up, and we got the data and the images that we needed.
Wow, that's awesome. And you said this occurred in 1919. What other significant events were happening around the world at that time?
Well, in February of that year in the United States, the Grand Canyon National Park was established. May of that year, there was a large left wing demonstration in France, which led to a violent confrontation by the police. In the fall of that year, there was women's rights were established in the United States, and there was also prohibition in the United States of that year.
Okay, awesome. Who else was involved in the project?
Sir Frank Watson Dyson was an astronomer from the Royal of Britain, and he was the one who came up with the experiment in 1917. A total solar eclipse on March 29th of 1919 would occur just as the sun was crossing the bright Hades star cluster, and Dyson was the one who discovered that the light from the stars that would pass through the sun's gravitational field on its way to the Earth. So this meant that it would be visible during the darkness of the eclipse, and this would allow us to measure the star's gravitational position in the sky. Another person that really had an impact on the project was Andrew Cromelin, and he was an astronomer from the Royal Greenwich Observatory who was basically like my co-manager, and he helped lead the experiment in northern Brazil when I was on the island.
Cool. What would you say your role was in the project?
Well, I was really the coordinator. I brought the team together and did most of the data analysis myself, which helped me later publish my papers regarding this experiment. Some people thought that I didn't have enough supporting evidence, which in fact it came out about a year later that I had plenty of evidence and they were just proven wrong. Um, and I also was the one who took the extremely famous eclipse photo from this experiment. I was the one who took that. And I was also the one who got us our government funded grants for this project. And then also, I've said a couple times before, I led the group of experimenters in Principe.
Awesome. What impact did your project have on the physics community?
Well, after we returned to England after this project, our data from Principe had confirmed Einstein's predictions and it had actually disproved Newton's predictions. And I had announced my findings on November 6, 1919. And the next morning, Einstein was on the front page of major newspapers around the world because of my practical findings.
Wow, that's crazy. What would you say was your inspiration behind your project?
Well, I've always been in love with the stars ever since I was a child, but and like I went to college in physics and studied physics and got my master's in that as well. But really, the inspiration for my project was during the later part of World War One. I was a secretary of the Royal Astronomical Society, and I received a series of letters and papers from William D. Sutter regarding Einstein's theory of general relativity, and that's what kind of got the ball rolling on all of this.
Awesome. Thank you for your time.